As many of you know, the videos I did on atheism got a lot of interesting responses, and so many interesting responses I decided to kind of sort of do another one. Largely because I got some emails from various people asking essentially the same question in several different ways. Asking, do omnists believe in God? Just flat out, do they believe in God? Are they atheists or are they theists? And of course, if someone walked up to me in the street and asked me that question, my answer would probably be, well, there isn't really a good question, but I'm going to do my best. First of all, though, I also want to address some of the other comments I got. I got a number of atheists mostly who were saying, you know, you're not talking about my atheism in these videos. That's not my atheism. I'm not a Richard Dawkins style atheist. I'm more agnostic, or I'm more mystical, or I'm more this, I'm more that. I have all kinds of different beliefs that don't just come under the umbrella atheism. And the best thing I can say to that is, well, I know. I know, of course I know. On this show, I'm usually talking about things in very broad strokes. Often when I talk about Christianity, I talk about an extreme form of it. Certainly in atheism, that's what I'm talking about. Why? Because I'm comparing extreme systems. I'm not talking about every believer from those systems, and that kind of does have to be assumed. Otherwise, I would never get anywhere if I tried to describe every single kind of atheist, every single kind of believer, every single kind of Taoist, Buddhist, whatever. I'd be going on forever and ever and ever. But omnism is all about gradiences between this and that, and agnosticism, which I got in several of these comments, would take me. And I'll probably do a whole video on agnosticism, but it could literally go on forever. So that needs to be understood beforehand. Another thing, when I talk about omnism, I also, how do I put this? Omnism as opposed to omnitheism. Now, often I'll use these terms interchangeably, omnist and omnitheist. To me, omnist is a slight variation, where omnitheism, which means a belief in all gods, to me is a little more like the Baha'i belief, the belief in all these particular religions. They believe in Buddhists and Taoists and neo-pagans and Christians and Muslims and Judaism and et cetera, et cetera. To me, the term omnist as opposed to omnitheism is just a little broader. Instead of just saying, well, we believe in all these different religions per se, it's a little more like we believe in monotheism, polytheism, pantheism, panentheism, tritheism, atheism, theism, all of those. It's just a little broader. Also, I don't represent omnitheism or omnism, either one. I'm just one particular person, one particular believer. I don't think that omnism should ever have a central figure. I think that we're all religions unto ourselves. I think all religions really are. I mean, I don't think you can actually take two people from even the smallest, most well-defined Christian denomination and say they believe in exactly the same thing, because we all put our own spins on things. We all interpret things differently. So I'm not speaking for all omnists when I make these statements. I'm just one omnist talking from my perspective of omnism and using that term because I think it best describes my belief system, if that makes any sense. Anyway, back to the original question before I got off on that diatribe. Do omnists believe in God or not? Are we atheists or are we theists? Let me try and give you an idea of what kind of effect it actually has when we even get asked that question. Imagine for a moment that thousands of years from now, no, millions of years from now, when humankind is gone, paved over, totally obliterated. Either we blew ourselves up or we moved up into the stars or into other dimensions. or we evolved into something else. Whatever the case, we have these creatures millions of years from now that postulate that maybe there was a civilization before. Now, maybe these guys are aliens, or maybe they're just the denizens of Earth. Maybe they evolved from us, or they evolved from that ham sandwich you left in the refrigerator just before the nuclear apocalypse. Whatever the case, there's two archaeologists in a cave trying to find evidence, and they come upon these little bits of evidence. Now, keep in mind that this is all they have of our entire civilization. All of our cities, all of our culture stretching back thousands of years. Everything that made us us, our governments, every culture of the world, our vehicles, our iPhones and computers and televisions and satellites, Hot Pockets, Pop-Tarts, He-Man, the A-Team, everything. The only evidence they have is two photographs that are encased in rock. They break the photographs out of the rock, and one of them sees one photograph and one of them sees the other. The first photograph is of a big red SUV. The second photograph is a little blue sports car. Now, the second they look at them, they fix them in their minds just before they dissolve. Just from touching the air, these photographs dissolve. They are so old. So the only evidence this entire civilization now has of our civilization, of everything that made us us, is these two pictures that two archaeologists saw and can't even show to anyone. All they can do is describe. So they debate up and down. The whole civilization debates about this. What were we? Which one were we? Were we the red one? Were we the blue one? Were the archaeologists really seeing the same thing and just interpreting them differently? How did this work? We don't get it. There's some fringe scientists who think that maybe there were actually these other creatures that maybe lived inside these things, and maybe those things moved. Maybe the little circular things were some form of transportation, but those are just fringe concepts. There's no real evidence for that, so it's pretty easily dismissed. They think that maybe one was a male and one was a female, but who knows with this race? Maybe they have two genders, maybe three genders, maybe only one gender. So there's no telling how they interpret that. They just know that somehow we must have either been one or the other. So one scientist finally comes up with this great idea. He says, okay, I'm going to go back in time in my mind, because I can't go back there physically, but I'm going to reach back, I'm going to get in this machine of mine, go back in time, and talk to one of these creatures, whatever they were, and I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out the answer. So he gets in his machine and he travels back in his mind and he contacts one of us. And he can't really see what we see or hear what we hear, but he's just able to ask some rudimentary questions. And the first thing that he asks is, I've just got to know, are you guys the little blue thing or the big red thing? What do you think that human would say to that? It would probably be something like, you see, to us, God, and we don't even necessarily like using the word God. We may use the word universe or the source or the everything or the large concept, whatever. Because the moment you say God, that just registers in someone's head what God means to them. And unfortunately, to Omnism, it's such a huge concept that there's really no word that encapsulates it. So we use these terms somewhat interchangeably, but they don't really mean anything, depending on what they mean to you. So maybe that gives you some idea why there's no really good answer for it, but at least that's an image maybe you can wrap your head around. Anyway, if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'll look forward to the comments. Once again, I'm the Urban Omnist, and I'll look forward to talking about this. And guys, please don't forget to support us as much as possible by clicking subscribe, liking us on Facebook and Twitter, and please, 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 please send me those questions right at this address. Thank you very much. Again, I'm the Urban Omnist.